Hey guys, my name is Victoria, welcome back to my channel. I'm filming Show Me a Book That part 3 today, and since the last one was uploaded a few months ago, I thought we could have one right before Christmas. I asked you guys on Instagram for categories and prompts, which these books that I'm going to show you all fill today. And yeah, we're going to start right away, otherwise this intro will be too long. Again, I wrote them all down in my book here, and I don't know how many we actually have. I think at least 20, so let's get on with it. Okay, the first category is show me a book that took you ages to read. And when we go back into a time when I didn't read much, which was last year, I would say it's Harry Potter 6, because I started that in 2019 and I finished it in the first week of January this year. So that actually took me years to read, but I wasn't constantly reading in it. So a book that really took me a long time to get through for some reason was Good Wives by Louisa May Alcott. It's the continuation after Little Women, and I actually really enjoyed that book. It's about Jo, Meg, Amy, and Beth and how they kind of all grew up, and I really did enjoy their story just because I'm so in love with Little Women. But it was very slow paced, and I think I started this in March and finished it in June or July. I can't really tell. I just remember it taking me forever to get through that book. Still a good book though. Show me a book with flowers on the cover. I chose my copy of The Secret Garden by Frances Hodgson Burnett. I'm saying this wrong, I'm so sorry. I haven't read this yet. I actually don't know anything about this book. It's been on my TBR for a long time now, and I bought it in summer, and still I haven't gotten around to read it yet. Which is kind of sad. I need to read it. There's beautiful gold foiled flowers on the cover. Show me a book you read on vacation. Because I didn't have that much time today, I chose not to take all these 20-something books and put them here. I'm simply going to show you. I chose Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is the perfect summer beach read. Malibu Rising tells the scandalous story of the Riva siblings. They're all famous and they all have lots of issues in life. And the protagonist here is Nina Riva, but you get all kinds of perspectives, and it's such a great read. It is so fascinating, so scandalous, dramatic, and gripping. And if you're currently in a reading slump as well, that would be a perfect book. Generally speaking, all the books of Taylor Jenkins Reid. Show me a book that enrages you. And that was really hard because I don't have a book that enraged me, I think. I bet tomorrow when I wake up, I have one that fits this prompt so much better. But right now I would say Lord of Shadows by Cassandra Clare, not because of the book, but because of a certain character, Sarah, who I hate with the utmost passion, and who I honestly wished wasn't included in the story. She seems to be like kind of like a key character in this story, but in my opinion she really isn't. She just causes lots of drama and I can't stand her, and that's why this book, particularly her, the character, really enraged me while reading this book. Lord of Shadows is the second part in the Dark Artifices trilogy, sequel to The Mortal Instruments. Yes, my favorite universe. I really love the next category, which is show me a book that you just want to show for no reason. And since I'm currently reading it, and since I think it fits the time, I want to show you my beautiful copy of A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. My sister gifted it to me, and I'm so happy that she did because it's gorgeous. And again, it's a penguin cloth bound, but like The Secret Garden, this is kind of like a special edition because it has gold foiling, and I love these so much, and I think the red is beautiful. And yeah, that is a book that I really wanted to show you because it's so pretty. Show me a book that was really expensive. I can't show you the book yet, or the books, because I haven't received them yet, but I recently ordered a very pretty edition of The Song of Achilles and Circe, and those were pretty expensive, and I don't even want to tell you how much they were, but including the shipping, it was like the biggest purchase I did for books, like for 2 books. I will show them to you when I have the books, but when I saw that they were releasing those, I was like, I need to have them because there are dark green and gold, my 2 favorite colors. I knew I had to have them. Show me a book that has a character with a name that you like. I will tell you 2 names that I really like because somehow this series has all the names that I really love. Clockwork Princess, or the entire trilogy, which is the Infernal Devices. There are 2 names that I really dearly love, and there are 2 of the protagonists even, which are William and James. I love those names a lot. Okay, I do love Gideon as well. There's also Gideon. So yeah, there's just a lot of names that I really do love, but those kind of stand out. I always loved the name James, and then a few years later I really loved the name William. So yeah. Show me a book that confused you at first. Gonna choose a book that still kind of confuses me, which is The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. I still can't say if I really loved this book. And I honestly think I really rushed through this book. I think I need to give it way more attention because the detail that is in this book is just amazing. But while I was reading it, I wasn't really fond of it. For some reason, I don't know why. I can barely remember stuff, and that just proves to me that there was so much that didn't get into my head, that wasn't apparently standing out enough. But I do plan on reading it again next year, or at least listening to it, because I think a lot got lost while rushing through this book. Yeah, it confused me a lot. Not only because it was so much, but because there were multiple perspectives and multiple time jumps, and I was like, when, where, who are we right now? And there were parts of the story that I found so unnecessary. I do get the appeal of the book, and that's why I want to read it again. Show me a book that made you feel safe. And one book that gave me a really, really good and comfortable feeling this year was The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. The story of Linus Baker needing to observe and look into a certain orphanage that has the worst kids, apparently, and then finding out that that is not true, and the days that he will spend there will be the most important of his life. I adored every character. I loved the dynamic of the little family they built there, and yeah, everyone is so unique, and I just really love the story. Even though it tackles very hard topics, it was such a nice read. I remember loving reading this so much, and I can't wait to read it again. Guys, I need to show you something. These books were also quite expensive, and they do fit into the category that I told you about before. Sorry if it's not focusing, but look at the pages. No, not my face. Isn't that beautiful? And it goes all around, but sorry, it's signed by the author, which is so cool. So yeah, I had to show this to you. This is one of my favorites that I read this year, and I really love this book. That's why I wanted to show it to you guys. Show me a book you'd sell your soul to read again for the first time. And this was a bit difficult because I read lots of great books, especially this year, but it would probably be one of the books that emotionally destroyed me in every way this year, which is Queen of Air and Darkness by Cassandra Clare. I finally got to finish The Dark Artifices, which also took me ages to read because I started the first book in 2017, continued with the next one, Lord of Shadows, which I told you about, but then I fell out of love with reading. So this year I listened to all of the books, so the trilogy, and this book really destroyed me. The first 2 hours of listening to this book, I just cried the entire time. I cried because it was sad, I cried because it was too much, and I cried because of happy things. It was an emotional roller coaster. I remember so vividly reading it or listening to it for the first time and just being completely out of my wits. No, it's so weird, but it was the most intense experience I had with a book, and I didn't think that anything could amount to or even surpass my experience reading City of Heavenly Fire, which used to be like my absolute favorite book, and it still is, but the experience of reading that for the first time, there were so many things I did not expect and so many things I did not want to go through. Show me a book that was one of your favorites from the first sentence. I chose The Lighthouse Witches by C.J. Cook. I read this last month. I listened to it last month, immediately got the copy because after 20 minutes of listening to it, I loved the writing so much, and I will read you the first few sentences. This whole story is about a family moving to Longhaven, a Scottish island, where the mother is supposed to paint a mural in the lighthouse because she's an artist, she's a painter, and things go south quite quickly and the family gets lost and they don't know what happened. But I'm going to read you the first sentence. Live, 1998, Longhaven, the Black Isle, Scotland. Chapter 1. The lighthouse was called The Longing. Pitched amidst tessellations of rock black as coke, trashed for over 100 years by disconsolate squalls, it needled upwards, spine straight, a wide bolt locking earth, sky, and ocean together. It was lovely in its decrepitude, feathery paint gnawed off by north winds, and rust-blazed windows frame signatures of use and purpose. I always thought lighthouses were beautiful symbols, but this one was more than that. It was hauntingly familiar. I read you more than one sentence, but when I was listening to the book, I obviously did not see the sentences, so that is like my first impression of the book. I really, really love it, and I'm so happy that because of the cover, I started reading this because this became one of my favorites this year. Yay! Show me a book that had a bad ending. I cheated a bit because I can't actually remember one that had a bad ending, but how about Hamlet by William Shakespeare? Is this kind of a spoiler for all the people who did not read this book or have not experienced it on stage or something? I don't know, you guys asked me for this problem, I'm going to answer it. So yeah, Hamlet has a sad, bad ending, and I enjoyed it. It was good. This is a tragedy about revenge and death, and obviously the sentence "to be or not to be" is included here. I can quickly read you this. Hamlet is a tragedy by William Shakespeare, believed to have been written between 1599 and 1601. Play, set in Denmark, recounts how Prince Hamlet exacts revenge on his uncle Claudius, who has murdered Hamlet's father, the king, and then taken the throne and married Hamlet's mother. The play vividly charts the course of real and feigned madness, from overwhelming grief to seething rage, and explores themes of treachery, revenge, incest, and moral corruption. I had to read this for one of my classes, and it was really interesting, especially learning about the customs back then and how grieving someone who just died, was seen as an act of heresy. That's so crazy, right? Show me a book that gives you Christmas feelings. I chose The Nutcracker, or specifically said Der Nussknacker und Mäusekönig by E.T.A. Hoffmann. I think he's German. I think everyone knows the ballet by Tchaikovsky, The Nutcracker, and it has been with me for my entire life. I actually have not ever seen it on stage myself, only a bit on YouTube, but yeah, that's something I really want to do next year. But again, I do plan on getting this book because it might be a bit different to the ballet. I don't actually care. But the feeling and spirit of Christmas is like encompassed or is completely surrounded by the story. So yeah, I'm gonna choose this one. Show me a book that is misogynistic. We're going back to Shakespeare because I chose A Midsummer Night's Dream by William Shakespeare. This is a comedy about 3 different plots, and I will not explain you the plot right now because it's quite complicated and there's just too much. But essentially, when we talked about it in class, because I recently had to read it, we found out that Shakespeare used lots of moon and Luna imagery whenever women talked. We found out that back then at the time, because Shakespeare's plays always align with the happenings and the contemporary problems. First of all, that alone is interesting. But as Elizabeth I ruled, a lot of people did not like having another woman, especially after Mary Tudor. If you don't know her, Bloody Mary, that may be a bit more familiar, sat on the throne. They did not like having a woman as their ruler, and people saw it as really strange and weird that she was never married and really did not like her, and obviously thought that women could not control themselves because they're always so dramatic. And the Luna and moon imagery in general in this play plays into that, because back then, apparently. By the way, I'm just saying what my professor said, so if you disagree, just, you know, it's not my fault. It was believed that the moon had a lot of power over women because women are so full of fluids. When you think about menstruation, women cried all the time, so tears. And as you know, the moon is highly connected to the water, especially the ocean. Shakespeare combined that. You know, in the first act, Theseus, the ruler of the country, is very keen on marrying Hippolyta. He's like, I can't wait, why is this taking so long? And Hippolyta is like, oh, you know, it's the way it is. Like, she's really not impatient at all. It seems like she's dreading the wedding. And Titania and Oberon in the fairy realm also have their quarrel, like Titania defying him and not following his rules and stuff and doing her own thing. And in the end, the 2 women aren't like that anymore. The play made it seem like, oh yeah, because they're again under the guard or under the protection of the male of Theseus and Oberon, they're finally getting normal and they're finally starting to act intelligent again, because before that they didn't, and before that they were radical and dramatic and irrational, and now that they're finally bound to a man, they are not. I don't know. I have no idea if Shakespeare was really misogynistic, but all these customs that were done back then all just scream misogyny, obviously. And that's why I chose this book. Other than that, I can't really think of one. Show me a book that you read in one day. In March, I did a whole marathon where I read one book every day. And this was the first one I read in this marathon, which is The House Without Windows by Barbara Newhall Follett. A book about a girl who vanishes into the forest or into nature and never comes back home and starts to live there. That's all I'm gonna say to the story. It's a very short book, which the author actually wrote when she was 8 years old. And then she had to rewrite it because it got lost in a fire. Essentially, this book was published with her 13-year-old writing, which is insane. And I really enjoyed this book. It was full of nature and full of whimsical things, and I really liked it. Show me a book that has over 1,000 pages. The only book I have is Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, the first German editions that were out there. Fifth book in the series has over 1,000 pages. Show me a book that has under 50 pages. This is pretty easy because I recently read one that is meant for kids. I actually listened to it and I think the audiobook was like 4 minutes, and this book had 28 pages, and it's Before We Sleep by Paolo, and I'm not going to say his last name because I'm so gonna botch it, but you'll see it on the screen. This is a really sweet book about a fox and a little mouse who are best friends, and then winter comes and the mouse obviously has to sleep through the winter and the fox doesn't, and this is kind of like their story before, and it's a very cute story for kids. Show me a book you've been dying to read for ages. I can't believe I still haven't read this book. The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett has been in my shelf for over 10 months. Exactly 10 months. Because today is the 21st, and I turned 19 on 21st of February, and this is the day that I got the book, and since then I badly wanted to read it because it was hyped and celebrated last year. I still haven't read it. I don't know why. Show me a book that reminds you of a special person. I chose Little Women by Louisa May Alcott because it always reminds me of my entire family. So, persons. This is the first book about Joe, Meg, Beth, and Amy, all siblings, and it's about them being kids and teenagers. Show me a book that's ace positive. One book that is obviously all about being asexual or tackles this theme is Loveless by Alice Oseman, which I read also in March, I think. It was an amazing experience as someone who identifies as aromantic and asexual to read this book and connect to a character on that level. It's about Georgia, who never fell in love, who never had a crush, and who badly wants to experience these things in college. But when she goes to college, she finds out that her feelings might be a bit different than others, and then stumbles upon the terms aromantic and asexuality. And that's all I'm gonna say. It's a very obvious asexual representation book, and if you have any, please let me know down below, because I'm on the lookout for them all the time. Show me a book that made you think about your life. I chose Aristotle and Dante, Dive into the Waters of the World. I finished this, I think, 2 weeks ago, and I just remember being in such an observing state at the time while reading this, and for some reason this book made me really think about my life. It's a continuation of Ari's and Dante's story. This is the second book, which came out in October, and I finally read it, and yeah, there were just so many themes that were discussed, like friendship and grief and family and romance. I really liked it. Diving into Ari's head, because the whole story is told by him, it's just always such a unique experience that kind of made me think a lot. Show me a book that you expect to be an emotional roller coaster. Again, I don't think there will ever be books that affect me as much as the Shadowhunter Chronicles do, because I've been with them such a long time, and they initially, in 2016, made me fall in love with books for the first time in my life. There's a huge connection between me and these books, and that's why it's no wonder that I chose Chain of Thorns by Cassandra Clare, which is set to come out next year, I think. And I have read Chain of Gold. It's the third part in the Last Hours trilogy, which is a sequel to the prequel, The Infernal Devices, which I told you about, to Mortal Instruments. It's a lot. But yeah, I expect that to be an emotional roller coaster, because every last part in this universe and trilogies is always so emotional. So yeah. Show me a book that makes you think of a certain color. I chose Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier, and every time I think about that book, I just think red. There are themes, there are symbols of red, like the red dress in this book. It's essentially about a woman whose name we never actually get to know. We just know her as the second Mrs. De Winter after she gets married to Mr. De Winter, who met her in one summer and then decided to marry her like after 1 week of knowing each other. And Rebecca is actually the first wife of Maxime de Winter. And this is a very nice mystery classic that I did enjoy listening to. And yeah, red is just the immediate color. Show me a book that is music in words. Because I don't want to choose The Picture of Dorian Gray all the time, I'm going to say On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous by Ocean Vuong. I talked about this book a lot, and this whole book is kind of like written as a letter. It's about the protagonist growing up and dealing with his sexuality and the Vietnamese War and growing up with her and having her as a mother and these experiences that his mother, I don't think, ever got to know about. I loved this book. I can't wait to read it again because the writing is just gorgeous. The way that Ocean Vuong writes is just amazing. We have 2 more categories and then we're done. Show me a book that you would like to read when it's raining outside. This is a book I haven't read and it's a book that I don't have yet, but I badly want to, which is Midnight in Everwood by M.A. Kuzniar. Kuzniar? No idea. You see the name. I love this cover so much. I actually have no idea what it's about. I just saw the beautiful ballerina on the cover and I thought, okay, I have to read this someday without even needing to know what it's about. There's nothing Maria Stell loves more than ballet, but after Christmas her dreams will be over as she's obligated to take her place in Edwardian society. While she is chafing against such suffocating traditions, a mysterious man purchases the neighboring townhouse. Dr. Drosselmeyer is a charming but calculating figure who wins over the rest of the Stell family with his enchanting toys and wondrous mechanisms. I so want to read this book because obviously it's based on the Nutcracker. I really want to read this book, and I feel like you can not only read this while it's raining outside, but also while it's snowing outside. We arrived at the last category. Show me a book that will carry us through the dark winter days. And I chose Under the Whispering Door by T.J. Klune, the second book by him that I read. I love this book. I recently finished it. And just like House in the Cerulean Sea, it gives you such a cozy and comfortable feeling, while at the same time dealing, again, with hard topics that will make you cry. And while The House in the Cerulean Sea has such a summer atmosphere, in my opinion, maybe because I read it in summer, this is a winter book for me at least. This is about Wallace, a pretty horrible man who dies and then comes to Charon's Crossing. You could call it Sharon's Crossing. Actually, it's Charon, the ferryman. And it's actually a tea shop. It's the place between, so the place between life and death. And what Wallace doesn't know is that the few days that he spends here in this beautiful house, by the way, are going to change his life. I don't want to tell you too much, but I really like the atmosphere and the characters and the story in general, and the idea of place in between worlds or in between like realms. It's like a tea shop. It's so charming and so cute. This is, by the way, also signed. Just wanted to say that. Okay, we are done. Which took me more time than I'd like to admit. I loved this list. I loved these prompts that you gave me. So thank you again to all the people who sent me prompts and were so creative. If you want to be part of videos as well, you can follow me on my Instagram. All my social media is linked down below. If you like this video, then please give me a thumbs up and comment down below what you would like to see next. If you haven't yet, subscribe to this channel and don't forget to click the little bell next to the subscription button to never miss an upload, because you get notified every time I upload a video. Obviously, stay for bloopers. I have a Patreon if you want to support me more. Again, my social media is linked down below. If you have any books for these categories, feel free to write them down below. I would love to read your suggestions. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I hopefully see you in my next video. And to those who celebrate Christmas, Merry Christmas. And we're definitely going to see each other before the year ends. I still have lots of videos for you guys in this year, and I hope to see you then. Until then, bye! Awa! Thank you. It's very nice of you to do. Paint a mir, paint a mir, paint a mir. I think I talked about this. I think but then what did I want to say? Fuck. Beach read. This is the perfect summer read. Beach. Wet? What? Wet? No, my tree! Shit. Scheiße.